Hello everyone and welcome back to part 9 of our F1 Manager 24 Let's Play. Yes, we return this weekend here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. Of course, if you missed out on the last video that went live later on last week from Monaco, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. I just quickly want to apologise for the lack of content over the weekend. I was actually helping my sister move house, so yeah, didn't quite have enough time to finish up recording everything I wanted to from F1 Manager, but we're back again, and I'm really looking forward to trying to get through in towards the summer stretch. Obviously, so far, we've had a very up and down campaign. You can see McLaren now leading the way in the Constructors' Championship, just 6 points ahead of Red Bull, and Ferrari are hanging on in pretty well as well. Aston Martin still comfortably ahead of Mercedes, and VCARB there with ourselves on 1 point. Tied with Haas. Drivers' Championship, Lando Norris, yep, that 6 point gap has come courtesy of him ahead of Max Verstappen. Perez and Oscar Piastri tied with both Ferraris between them there. So it could be a very exciting three-way fight for the Constructors' Championship this year. I think, yeah, we have obviously had a couple more rounds of F2 and F3. Ollie Behrman still leading the way there on 142 points ahead of Isaac Hadjar and Gabriele Bortoleto, with Andrea Kimi Antonelli still in 4th place. That means, yeah, Prema leading the Constructors ahead of Carlin, Rodin Carlin even, I should say, with Invicta in P3. And then taking a look further down then at the Formula 3 standings, it is still Kasper Sutka leading the way ahead of Ollie Goethe and Tim Tram. It's their MP from Prema, making up your top 6, but they are tied in the Constructors' Championship as well. They're 205 points apiece. They've got near 3 times the points of ART in 3rd, so I think that's going to be a good battle just to keep an eye on as we make our way through the season. Now, we have had a few little bits and pieces that have come through since the last video. So Dennis Hauger, I accidentally offered him an actual drive with the team, so I'm kind of leaving him on red at this stage of the series. We've also got some concerns about the wind tunnel with some structural damage, so I think we're going to have to try and approve some spending there. We still haven't got much money, though, annoyingly, inside this game, and we are waiting for a few more parts to manufacture on the car as well. So, yeah, we're still going to continue ignoring Dennis Hauger's demands, and, yeah, he is fed up and is completely done with talking to the team then. We've also got very low stock of a lot of other parts on the car. Unfortunately, that's kind of a risk we've got to take right now, as there we go. Finally, some new, some cash rolling in to the team as well there. What's going on up and down the grid? Bruno Famine there saying we're not where we'd like to be. Ferrari seemingly hoping they finish P3 in the championship, despite being P3 in the championship. So, yeah, I mean, they're not that far away from the teams ahead of them there. Yeah, Alpine are still last in the Constructors, though, behind Williams and Kick Sauber. We need to do a couple of little bits and upgrades, though, to the car. So we need to try and manufacture up another couple of front wings then to go on both cars before the Canadian Grand Prix. So we'll try and get those done. In fact, we'll try and bring a couple of extra ones if possible as well there. So a lot of money being spent. Annoyingly, it is unfortunately costing us the opportunity to obviously bring more, new parts to the car as well, though. That's where we're really, really struggling at this stage of the campaign. But I'm going to make sure before we head into Canada this weekend that obviously we are getting those new parts and that both cars are as updated as they possibly can be. So we'll do some pit stop drills. We'll give the team a bit of a chance to relax, though, before we get right into the weekend. So yeah, let's head then here to Montreal.
Formula One has arrived here in Quebec, and we're excited to get underway. Let's hope it's not going to be Groundhog Day. The local rodents have disrupted more than one race day here in the past. The Canadian Grand Prix is ready to kick off, and the only drama on the tracks we want to see is the best drivers in the world battling it out for a place on that podium. Lando Norris delivered for his team in the last race, and will head into this weekend with plenty of confidence. Can the Brit bring it home in this round too? The weekend begins here.
Well, I was taking a bit of a look at the car, and I did think, actually, this could be quite a strong track for us. Very, very high speed as well, and this car does excel in the high-speed sections of race circuits. Annoyingly, yeah, that high speed is going to become immediately slightly less relevant. Heavy rain predicted throughout most of the weekend as well, but that does always provide an opportunity for something a little bit interesting as well. So we're going to try and obviously make sure that the car is set up, ready to go for those wet conditions, of course, as always. We'll try a couple of different setup configs early on in the weekend as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I feel like, yeah, Canada can often provide a bit of an opportunity to try and have a good result. So, yeah, it's one of those circuits that always can be a little bit wild as well. You know, some of the greatest Formula 1 races of the 21st century have gone down around here. Who, of course, can ever forget that 2011 race. But, yeah, both cars set up ready to go. So let's try and make sure that we get them out nice and early, ready for FP1, of course. Plenty of opportunity to get laps on the board. I still like the design we got on this car. It is a beautiful, beautiful livery. You know, one that I did steal from the game, but clearly F1 Manager didn't feel that I deserved my own livery there. So we're going to come back. F1 Manager 2025. I would love our own livery inside the game as well. But yeah, getting our way then out onto the circuit. As per usual, we are the first car out, so we'll just let the drivers get into a good rhythm. I must admit, yeah, it is quite cool, obviously. Montreal is such a weird little track. I do love it, but it is weird. Of course, you know, built on this island by itself. And, you know, this game kind of shows you just how oddly located it really is. You know, it's one that it never really seems under too much threat to be dropped off the calendar as well. But I certainly hope that is never the case there. As have we got other juniors? Just saw, I think that was Porsche on the circuit. Ollie Behrman, Fred Vesti. Weirdly, we're actually seeing Sergio Perez in an FP1 session, which I guess is quite rare on this game. But apart from that, yeah, I don't think we've got too many juniors this weekend. No point flying them all out to Montreal when they, especially now, obviously they're right up into the nitty gritty, for a lot of them of their Formula 2 and Formula 3 campaigns as well. But yeah, lots of cars then out on the circuit. In fact, most cars out on the track right now. I've upped, as you would have seen, I've upped how long the practice stints are for both drivers as well around this venue. So hopefully they're both going to be able to provide us with full feedback about how they feel with the cars as well there. But we should be able to get 2 full runs in over the course of this session, and then just be able to make some final tweaks and changes right towards the end of free practice as well. Like I've said, it is one that we kind of tend to sim over a little bit, but it is really, really important there as Yuki providing us with feedback. He's happy, though, with the car, which doesn't happen often. Even Yuki sounded quite surprised by that come the end of his first run there, so that's pretty good. We'll try and just make a few little tweaks and changes then, just to make sure that both drivers are really, really happy. So we'll send Yuki back out with... we'll send him back out with that. And just see how he feels. Actually, we'll try and lower the stability slightly. And go like that. Wonderful. So, yeah, Yuki's going to have plenty of time. Liam, yeah, I think we took the setup, obviously, in slightly the wrong direction there. Definitely not giving him enough downforce. Sorry, giving him too much downforce, even, I should say, on the car. That's a mistake I don't want to make too often, especially around a track like this, where it is so difficult to overtake as well there. But there we go. We'll see how he likes those changes. We'll get both cars fixed up and ready to go once again then. Weird. I only just remembered. Yeah, you keep providing us feedback first, which doesn't happen often inside this series as well. But Ollie Behrman, top of the board in that Ferrari, so, he could be making moves in the future into an F1 seat. Maybe he's a driver that we could poach at some point, although apparently I am just the team for V-Carbs Juniors, or whatever. It's a bit odd, but we're basically just poaching Red Bull drivers early on. We did actually get confirmation as well that Ollie Goethe was interested in signing with the team, except for just like Dennis Hauger, I'd accidentally offered him a race seat, so we're going to be leaving Hauger and Goethe on red. But, if we want to try and sign a driver as well, I would like to get some juniors in at some point this year. But ultimately, money has been so tight, we're really just focusing on the drivers we've got. Would it be cool if, drivers could potentially get injured and have to take Grand Prix out inside this game? I don't know. Tell me down in the comments below. If a driver had a big enough crash, maybe they can't compete for a weekend, so you have to bring in, a junior driver or something like that. It would certainly add an interesting element to the game, but of course, obviously, it has actually become more common, hasn't it, recently? You know, you think since 2020, obviously COVID for a couple of years, Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz as well having an appendix removed. You know, it is something the Formula 1 teams have to consider from time to time nowadays. And it is interesting. You know, that could be a very, very cool mechanic to implement inside this game. But anyway, free practice then, just over 10 minutes left on the clock. Pretty much getting everything as we would like with both drivers as well there, so I'm quite happy. We seem to have hit the ground running here in Montreal. We don't tend to look at the times, though, in free practice anyway. But yeah, you can see now we've got Lawson pretty much now we know what he wants. So we can try and obviously just fine-tune all of that as well in the car. So yeah, we'll try and make a few little tweaks and amendments as well. Before the end of the session there. A little bit more... Oh, hey? What is he... Oh, sorry. A little bit less cornering, I should say. Sorry. So we'll try and go like that. And we'll give him... We'll just make sure, obviously, he's got the cornering perfect in the car. And then, obviously, we'll try and tweak around a few other things as well there, as toe angles need changing. Everything needs changing. I'm not convinced we're actually going to be able to get him perfect, to be honest, looking at this. Because I don't seem to be able to get the oversteer where we need it. What affects the oversteer badly? Very, very odd. I guess it's wing angles? If we have him at, like, the maximum wing angle, then he's seemingly quite happy with it. So I don't really know what to make of that. I'm just going to tweak the setups on both cars, and I think I'll see you guys in qualifying.
Will practice pay off for the drivers? Well, we're about to find out in qualifying.
There are 3 periods of qualifying ahead of the drivers now. Remember, only the fastest 10 will make it through to Q3 for a shot at pole position.
And here's a driver there's been quite a focus on recently, Karun, Valtteri Bottas.
It's interesting because they weren't that fast in practice. I'm not sure if this was a lack of pace or just the team trying different things, but I imagine we'll see their true performance soon enough.
And with that, let's get back onto the track.
Well, here we are then, ready for qualifying, and light rain is predicted. Let's take a look at what the weather's meant to be doing as we head into this session. I don't think we actually get any data until we get out onto the track, so we're going to have to be very, very careful. Can we have a look now? Apparently there's less than a mil of water on the circuit, but apparently, yeah, the team do still think it's ready for the intermediates then, so not too sure what we're going to make of this. I think it's going to be a very, very tough qualifying session immediately. We are just going to pause and see what the weather is meant to be doing. Track details, that rain is meant to be ramping up pretty quickly, so we could gamble it. We could try and get both drivers out on a set of dry compound tyres first thing. It might be really, really good for us. It might end up ruining our session there, but anything less than a mil of water is really, really good inside this game. It will still allow you to go out on the dry compounded tyres. DRS is enabled, so water actually getting less and less. So I think we've got to get both cars out there. Alpine clearly feel the same way. But yeah, rain and a lot more of it is predicted inside the next 5 minutes. So this one run could be really, really critical here. Ready for the rest of the weekend there as we'll try and make our way out onto the circuit. Just going to monitor what is going on with that rain. And I think everybody has sensed the opportunity. Look at that. Every single car on an outlap right now. So we're going to stay with Yuki Tsunoda, of course. Has been the better one in qualifying in recent times. But with everybody out there, it looks like we could see basically a one-shot qualifying session. We might get a few drivers to try and go back out again later on. But it is critical that you get your lap time hooked up. I'll be honest, I just want to see the rain start falling now. Because both of our drivers are on their lap. So hopefully that can give us a rough idea of how we're getting on as well there. As let's take a look, compare the times through Sector 1. We've got a 23.1 by Yuki. Will go quicker than the Alpine in front. And a 20... What's happened to Liam? A 24.4? No idea what he's done there, but he must have made a mistake through the first sector somewhere. Because he is way down on Yuki Tsunoda's time. So this is a little bit peculiar. And you can see he's actually getting jumped by Lando Norris. So I think, yeah, Liam Lawson and Lando Norris tripping over each other here in qualifying is really not what we needed at the start of the session. Yuki does a 23.1 again in Sector 2. Lawson a 24.7. So Lawson, again, might be out in Q1 due to some really bad luck. I think we've got to tell him to try and go for 2 runs here. We'll leave him on the pace and everything like that. And yeah, we'll make sure, obviously, once Yuki's finished his lap, that we don't cancel... that we do cancel the pit in for Liam Lawson there. Tsunoda at the final corner. Pierre Gasly has set a 1:16.5. Yuki goes slower, a 1:16.7. So we might be in major trouble here in qualifying. As well, make sure I cancel the call in on Liam Lawson's car. So he's going to try and go for another run here in this session. Maybe get a bit more temperature into the tyres. But currently, we are last and second to last of the drivers that have set time here. So we might be in real trouble and out in Q1 here for this Grand Prix. Tsunoda obviously just doing his box-in lap. So we've got to try and make sure that Lawson doesn't get held up again, which you can see he might just a little bit there. This is split one time, 24-2, so he's still over a second away from Yuki. Luckily now, we're starting to see other drivers struggle there, as Russell and Hamilton a bit further down the order, so maybe drivers tripping over each other. So there might be an opportunity still for Lawson before the end of this session to try and find an improvement here, as we're looking for ideally a 23-1 middle sector. Again, it's a 24-6. How is he so far off his teammate here, as Perez right on the cusp of the drop zone as well? So we can only hope that we get a nice run down in towards that final corner. I think Tsunoda, though, should be safely through. Could we gamble it? Could we bring Liam back in and then get him back out there soon enough? I'm not convinced we can, but there's no point in improving on this time, is there? I mean, yeah, we gotta just try and go for it, haven't we? We've got to try and lock down this lap time there. As you can see, Gasly in through the final corner, as the rain now is starting to fall a little bit more, so it's important that we finish this lap. Gonna have no straight line speed though out of the final corner, up towards the line. 21, he doesn't even improve, and Liam Lawson is in major trouble. He's got next to no fuel in the car either, so this is not good. But yeah, utter disastrous. I think he's out of fuel. Oh man, we had to try and get the lap in, but Liam Lawson is out of qualifying here, and I was worried that would be the case. It really was a one run and you're done kind of session here, and Lance Stroll, the Canadian, on top. Didn't think we'd be saying that inside F1 Manager as well there. Verstappen, though, in P2. Sergio Perez barely scraped by in the end, ahead of Esteban Ocon there. And you can see all the other drivers out in Q1. Admittedly, Lawson wasn't slowest, but he was in with the kick sours, which is never a particularly good sign. Alpine, though, and Pierre Gasly looking to be getting a bit stronger as well. Let's head into Q2. Maybe we can get into Q3. Well, Q1 then was all about trying to get the car on the circuit as early as possible. Q2 has been all about trying to get the car out as late as possible. The track continuing to dry up right towards the end of the session. So Yuki Tsunoda, we've tried to save all the tyres we can ready for the Grand Prix, as I feel that could be quite useful. And he is going to try and go for one run here at the end of the session. A lot of other drivers have finished off their times. You can see there's so many shockers that could be out in Q2 here. Leclerc, Perez, Sainz and Lewis Hamilton alongside Kevin Magnussen and Yuki in the drop zone right now. So we've got to try and see if we can find some big time here. As Leclerc, Sainz and Hamilton, they are out. Sergio Perez is on one final run, and Alex Albon now has moved to the top of the board there. Gasly up to P2. So this could be a massive weekend for a lot of drivers there, as Yuki sets a 23-7 first sector. Verstappen, when most of his championship rivals are running into problems, of course the Dutchman still able to get the job done and put that car provisional fastest here in Q2. But what is the time going to be by Yuki Tsunoda? Is he still able to find a little bit more as the lap time continues to unfold? Want to be aiming for ideally a low 24, which he's done in Sector 2 there. Looks like Lando Norris is going to be safely through as well. But Perez, I think he's going to be out of it here. So Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, Albon, Gasly, and hopefully Yuki Tsunoda. We're going to have some big shockers as we get into Q3. And as the rain is meant to continue throughout the rest of the weekend, it certainly is not going to get any less unpredictable here. As through the final couple of corners he goes, will we see Yuki Tsunoda making his way into Q3 for just the second time this year? Up over the line, Perez does scrape by. We go P5 though, just ahead of Alex Albon, and Red Bull now, it's going to be them against McLaren there. Ferrari, just like we saw in real life, having an absolute stinker. Well, take a look at that then at the end of Q2. Sergio Perez seemingly out of nowhere, able to find time right at the end of the session. They both put half a second though on Lando Norris in his McLaren car. But V-Carb, 212 Motorsports, Williams and Alpine all getting a car into Q3 at the expense of Ferrari and Mercedes there, as well as Fernando Alonso in his Aston Martin. That is glorious, but we need to try and start this race from as high up the grid as we can. There we go, coming out again then, ready for Q3. So it looks like it's going to be first car on a lap again is going to have the advantage here. And yeah, we are the first car to start our first fly then. Yuki Tsunoda making his way out the final corner. We are going to be monitoring those track conditions there, but if you take a look at the details, it is just start-to-ment ramping up again here in this final session. So qualifyings like this I absolutely love inside F1 Manager. They are so fun, so unpredictable, and for a game that generally there isn't a lot of unpredictability on a lot of occasions, it is so cool when you get a session like this. There is Tsunoda diving his way down through turn 3 and turn 4. So far, the lap time looking pretty tidy here. Everybody's just want to be settling in. As a 24-0 first sector, he will go purple. And immediately then, I think that's Lando Norris in the McLaren goes even faster. So, you know, I'm expecting, I think the best for us is probably going to be P5, P6, depending on how Stroll and Russell get on. I'm expecting Red Bull just to, you know, have that extra bit of pace still early on in this session. But like we said, if we can get a lap on the board nice and early, then that could be really, really ideal for us. There is a 24-3 second split as well. We've got yellow flags out. Someone else has gone for a lockup, so we could see other drivers being slowed down. That was Sergio Perez there making a mistake down at turn 5. So what's happened to the Mexican? Let's take a look. Just going to lock it up on the way in.
By that point, it was just too late.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's gone through the grass with a fair old lick of speed, so that might not cost Perez anywhere near as much time as he might have thought it would. Making our way, though, down into the Wall of Champions chicane. Yuki just avoiding the curbs on the entry, but willing to attack them through the second part and on the exit up towards the line. What is the time going to be by Yuki Tsunoda? A 120.1 for the Japanese driver. Lando Norris over the line, an 18.4. 1.5 seconds still off the pace, but that was a pretty good benchmark. Well, track conditions is getting worse and worse then, but we're going to try and send Yuki out for one last-ditch run here on the old set of tyres. We've left it mighty close, but we just get across the start-finish line there, ready for this final run. Like I said, I'm not expecting Yuki to be able to go any quicker, but it is always nicer, and you may as well give the driver the opportunity there. As you can see, down to P8. Sensibly, we're quicker than the two cars we'd hoped to be here, Albon and Pierre Gasly. So hopefully, yeah, at the very worst, it's going to give us a decent starting position ready for the Grand Prix. But are we seeing Yuki improving again? He's pretty much even through that first split. So I tell you what, although the circuit, yeah, there is definitely a little bit more rain on it, it's not getting much worse at the moment here, as I guess we've just got a little bit of a glory run here at the end of Q3. But happy, of course, that we made it into Q3 this weekend. Is he going to be up in Sector 2, though? Let's take a look. It is going to be a 24-8, so yeah, I don't think this is going to be worth it. We'll abandon that run. We're going to be lining up P8 on the grid. I'll see you guys down by the circuit.
70 laps of the Canadian Grand Prix await our drivers here in Montreal.
Named after the legendary Canadian driver, the circuit Gilles Villeneuve has been host to plenty of first-time winners. Jean Alesi, Lewis Hamilton, Robert Kubica, and Daniel Ricciardo all got their maiden victories here.
With a flat-out section of over 1 kilometre in Sector 3, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is a track that asks, who dares brake last? And that means it's tough on tyres and brake temperatures the whole way round. Race day has arrived, and the time has almost come for these drivers to fight it out, wheel to wheel.
Well, here we are then down on the circuit, and it looks like it's meant to be a dry start to this Grand Prix as well there, so things are certainly get very, very interesting as we make our way through the afternoon. Team are predicting the rain, though, to roll in actually pretty early on into the race there around lap 20, and it's just meant to hang around and linger throughout the rest of the afternoon. So I think it's going to be a fairly simple medium start for Yuki. I'm tempted to gamble it, though, with Liam and try to start on the soft compounded tyre just to see if we could get there and, you know, maybe have an advantage, maybe cut his way through some of the other back markers as well. I've been watching a few videos by another F1 Manager creator I think his name is Neros. I'm probably butchering it horrendously. But he's very, very interesting. He's doing some deep dives and kind of telling you what works and what doesn't inside this game as well. Very, very useful. So if you are struggling with this game, then I would highly recommend checking it out. But yeah, let's do this thing though. It's time for the Grand Prix. I'm not going to bother with any of the aggression or things like that at the start, because ultimately I found it makes next to no difference inside this game.
Well, it's great to have you with us, folks, as we settle in for the weekend's Grand Prix action. And it's always an entertaining race when Yuki Tsunoda is involved.
An encouraging grid position as they sit in P8. Lots to build on during the race if they manage it well.
This should certainly be a good one, folks. This is it. We're moments away now at the Canadian Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
Well, good start there by Lando Norris on the front row, but we're going to be watching with Tsunoda there as we need to try and get a move on Daniel Ricciardo in the V-carb. And that's exactly what we're going to try down at turn 1. Around the outside of the Australian will go, of course, Yuki's current teammate IRL. And he's immediately got the jump on him there. So beautiful little start to the race. And yeah, as soon as I don't actually set the drivers to go aggressive, he's actually able to make some moves there. Ricciardo, though, fighting back down through turn 3 and turn 4. I'm going to instantly try and get the place back gain there. So not ideal in the end. I thought we'd actually got pretty comfortably ahead of him. But clearly Daniel Ricciardo had other ideas, and it's important that we don't lose sight of some of those other cars as well early on in this GP. But of course, the biggest priority for us is that we bring home some points this afternoon. You know, we want to try and make sure that we beat V-Car by the end of the year, but if we can get some points from starting in P8, then that would be really, really useful as well there. As you can see, Liam, we can hear him in the background there, struggling to make any moves, and I think he's dropped back down to P21 then off the start, so not ideal for Liam Lawson here at the start of the Grand Prix. But again, I think, unfortunately for him, Yuki Tsunoda is going to have to be our priority this afternoon there as he makes his way down in towards the final corner. Maybe if we could just leave Albon and Gasly to fight with those cars behind as well, that could be very, very useful at the start of this one. As Norris on the softs, Lance Stroll as well, up to P3, also starting on the soft compounded tyre. But it is a complete mixture of strategy then at the start here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Nobody quite knows what they want to do in terms of the fuel and the tyres in particular, but everybody has survived lap 1. And yeah, Liam Lawson annoyingly is down into last place there as Zhou Guanyu appears to have made a move as well. Then let's take a look at what's happened down into that final chicane. Oh, I got a little bit nip and tuck, but Zhou Guanyu, they're able to get the power down on the exit of the corner. No idea how they made it through there side by side. But yeah, you can already see Yuki just starting to drop away ever so slightly from Ricciardo in front. Like I said, it is important that we stay in the DRS range of that car in front as early as we can. And immediately, he hasn't quite done so, but neither has Ricciardo. The gap opening up just to 1 second to George Russell in front. I'm not interested in making the move on Ricciardo too early in this race. I'd rather just kind of stay out of trouble and make sure that we get our own job done early on. If we could try and keep up with these faster cars, you can already see Gasly dropping away in the Alpine. So that can be super, super useful there. Is he using a bit more battery out onto the back straight? Are we this time going to have DRS? Yes, we are. So that's good news. So we can afford just to tone everything back down. So we've got battles going on a little bit further up the road. Oh, Perez! Almost into the back of Lance Stroll. That was very, very scary there. Got to remember as well, Yuki, just tell him not to go so aggressive on the overtakes. As here we go, Perez again trying to look down the inside of the homeboy. Very, very close to contact there between the pair of them. There's Albon as well, just dropping back slightly. As Ricciardo and Tsunoda, once again, seem to be the battle, you know, the best of the rest early on this season there. So that's going to be really, really interesting to see how things kind of pan out early on. Ricciardo seemingly able to use his battery rather effectively as well here. But as long as we can just stay inside that range, I'm not too worried. As you can just see there, it really does ebb and flow still on this game. It's a little bit tricky sometimes to manage early on. Because I think, yeah, Lawson annoyingly and Zhou Guanyu there battling just a little bit further behind as well. But as long as we're running in the points, Ferraris and Alonso as well as Hamilton, they're really struggling to seemingly make much of an impact. So, you know, they're kind of the other ones that we're really worried about early on this afternoon. As are we seeing any kind of prediction as to that rain? It is just meant to be intermediate conditions, though, throughout the rest of the afternoon. So I don't think we're going to see too much of a change with that. But yeah, at the moment though, Leclerc seemingly the only one that's able to start cutting his way through. Already back him inside the top 10 then for the Frenchman. But yeah, Yuki just kind of doing his own thing. Liam as well, they're still a few seconds behind the car in front, but he is trying to nurse his tyres here as well. We've got yellows. Then we've got a crash down at the final corner. We've got someone in the wall. We've got Verstappen locking up down at turn 12. Could see two of them side by side, but I think that's behind them.
They were just unable to do much about it.
And almost doing a Nico Rosberg then for Verstappen. He'll stay out of the way as he tries to get back on the road. But Lance Stroll now up to the lofty heights of P2, and now Verstappen's binned it. What is going on? Max Verstappen in the wars again? Is he? Or is he... What's he done? Max Verstappen, he tries to rejoin. Can't see anything else, though, so no idea what to make of that. Verstappen, though...
They all knew what that moment meant.
Clearly they did. I'd love for them to explain to me what that moment meant. Very, very peculiar at the start of this GP then. But yeah, let's just start simulating forward just a little bit then. You can see Leclerc now making the move on Alex Albon just a little bit further behind. I think we can afford to go quite aggressive with these tyres as well there. But I think, yeah, Charles Leclerc, he's probably not going to be able to do much to defend against him. Alonso already reporting some issues as well in the Aston Martin. But yeah, I'm not really interested in trying to defend from Leclerc too much. So we'll tell him to rarely defend. And we'll probably let Leclerc by now. He's on soft compound tyres as well. But obviously what I'll do is I'll let Leclerc by. And then we'll just try and hang with him there as Sainz now as well. Starting to make his way through the order. So yeah, this is really not actually that good for us here. Both Ferraris making moves, but if they can get past us and Ricciardo, then it really isn't the end of the world early on in this race. Of course, a lot of the moves probably need to be done during the dry period. Otherwise, you're going to find that it's really, really difficult to make overtakes a bit later on. But Tsunoda there now, you can see dropping down to P10 behind both of those Ferraris. But he is pulling away from Alex Albon behind, which is the all-important one. Alonso and Hamilton both are making no impact whatsoever here. As now Carlos Sainz makes the move on Daniel Ricciardo as well. I tell you what, Tsunoda has got the pace to keep up with him early on in this race. We're just waiting to see when the intermediate conditions arrive. If we can just keep using a little bit of battery here and there, then we might just be able to try and attack Ricciardo a little bit more effectively. As soon as I say that, round the outside of the Australian will go. So we will inherit P9 then in this race. It's so important. You know, the gap isn't that big to V-Car, but I guess they are kind of our rivals as well, because obviously we poached Tsunoda from them, and Liam Lawson, I guess. So yeah, we obviously basically are fighting the Red Bull B team, you know, both in terms of the championship and kind of in the political side of Formula 1 as well. And Yuki there, yeah, making a really, really good maneuver around the outside of Ricciardo as well then. So hopefully Ricciardo just starting to struggle a bit. He's on those harder tyres, so he should have grip right the way throughout to the end of the stint. But yeah, really we are just kind of waiting to see when that wet period is going to arrive in this Grand Prix. As Ricciardo again, just not quite able to complete the move. That time around he will though. You see making it back up into that position. As we're just trying to make sure that we don't use too much fuel up either. It's very, very temperamental around this circuit. But already a 13-second gap back to Alex Albon. This is working out beautifully for us at the moment. There's still no real news on that rain. I'm taking a little bit of a gamble on the tyres. Because obviously, yeah, you know, it might be that rain shows up a little bit later on in the race than originally anticipated. But yeah, at the moment, just sticking with Ricciardo, I think is the really the better option here in this Grand Prix. As Alonso now starting to make a bit of an impact as well, a bit further behind. But yeah, he's still not really able to do a lot, as wet weather predicted. But yeah, we kind of know exactly when we're going to have to dive in and make the switch over to the wet compounded tyres, or the intermediate compounded tyres even, I should say. Like I said, I don't think we'll see full wets at any point this afternoon, as all yellow's out temporarily. Not too sure what that was about. Magnussen going for a spin down at turn 2. Let's take a look then with the Dane. Just gets on that curb, and lucky not to take his teammate with him there. But that's going to open up even more of a gap then behind Alonso, so got a little bit more to fall back on later on if we need to here. That's really important at this stage of the day there. So, yeah, I think the mediums were the way to go, as the rain now just started to fall around this circuit. So now it's just a time to slow it back down again. Wait and see how heavy is that rain meant to start rolling in. It's meant to start really piling up pretty quickly, actually, this afternoon. So, yeah, it is going to be tricky there as Ricciardo, again, trying to look around the outside. No, he's actually trying to go to the inside there, but Tsunoda able to defend that one and keep the Australian at bay once again then. So, let's just start seeing how quickly that rain is going to roll in. Like I said, we're looking for the magic 1 mil. And then, yeah, we are going to make that call over to the intermediates. Might be worth trying to get Liam Lawson in 1 lap earlier. So we got yellows out again. Ricciardo? We got multiple cars who have had an accident. Ricciardo seems to be one of them. So it's got to be him and Yuki. Have they lost wing on each other? Let's take a look back down in towards turn 1. Tsunoda down the inside. And Ricciardo just gives him no room at all. So both of them... Hey, you hit him from behind. How can Ricciardo claim that?
Not what everyone in the garage would have wanted to see.
Well, Ricciardo, though, with a little bit of front wing damage, I believe, from that one. So he might just be slowing down a little bit. Can we see any end plate damage on that V-carb car there, as Yuki seems to have got away with it scot-free? No, both end plates are still on that V-carb, so I think he's all right. Maybe just a little bit of floor damage or something like that. But yeah, I mean, the wet weather is rolling in. Surely we don't get a penalty for that. Surely we cannot get a penalty for that. I was going to say, we can't get a penalty for Daniel Ricciardo turning in on me. But yeah, you can see we're not really losing out much to George Russell either right now. So yeah, that Merc still is not a particularly quick car in this game, as we are getting closer and closer then to the wet period. Oh, Ricciardo in. Okay, so Ricciardo's had to dive into the pit lane there. So was Oscar Piastri. So I don't think... Oh no, they're on to the Inters. That seems earlier than I would have expected there for Oscar Piastri to make that switch, but I guess we've got to monitor the gaps then. So what's he doing relative to those cars around him? I think he is still losing time. So yeah, it's definitely not ready yet for the intermediates, but we are only a couple of laps away. So actually, Oscar Piastri, that gap is kind of moving up and moving down. Still don't think it's ready though, surely. Yeah, you can see that gap is slowly just starting to creep up still. Lawson has just got to try and drag these tyres a little bit longer, as all of our front runners then into the pit lane here, so no idea what's going on. I mean, everybody, I think, is going on to intermediates, but surely it's not ready yet. Surely it's not going to be ready yet for the intermediate tyre here, and we're just going to be going quicker than them. I don't believe... Like I said, I think we've got to wait till it gets to 1 mil. I'll monitor the gaps between Tsunoda and Stroll. But yeah, look at that. I mean, we're taking like 8/10 out of him instantly. It is not ready for the intermediates yet. But we're pretty much there. I guess we'll dive Liam in at the end of this lap. Try and basically take him to the end of the afternoon. But yeah, Yuki Tsunoda, is it ready? That gap's still floating around 3.8. Oh no, it is definitely starting to go up. I think it's time. So clearly it's not like it was on F1 Manager 23. Where, you know, it was just dive in whenever you like, and, you know, it's... Oh, hello. Let's have a look. What happened to Esteban Ocon? Had a pretty good... No, he didn't. No, sorry, he was out, wasn't he, in Q1, but unable to get the tyres on the car as quickly as they would have liked. Yeah, those wheel guns firing up. Yep, and Ocon not happy with that one. But yeah, like I said, you know, on last year's game, it was very much, once you get to 1 mil... It was absolutely the time. That doesn't seem to be the case this year, and I think we could see... I mean, Ricciardo's still a long way back, but we could see him potentially gain a bit of time on me as Tsunoda into the pit lane. Lawson had a pretty clean, tidy stop, so I can only hope that Yuki gets the same. But yeah, where is Daniel Ricciardo then? He's still quite a way behind, making his way down into the final corner. Let's not forget as well, of course, we've got the shortest run out of a very, very effective pit lane exit as well. So, yeah, Yuki now going over onto those intermediates. So I believe he is the last car onto intermediates in this Grand Prix. But they won't really wear out much this afternoon. And luckily for us, it looks like we have got the jump on Danny Rick as well there. So that's worked out beautifully. We've got 43 laps still to go of this Grand Prix. But yeah, as Yuki tries to get some temperature up in those tyres. Track conditions have now been confirmed changed to damp. So, yeah, as he tries to get temperature up, though, it's going to be very, very tricky to try and keep Daniel Ricciardo at bay. In fact, we haven't been able to do so. But now, I mean, we are just in this for the long haul, aren't we? It is going to be a long rest of the afternoon. Maybe overtakes can be made, but I think it's going to be rather tricky to really try and do a lot here. So I guess we've got to monitor that gap to Alonso behind as well. Just kind of wait and see whether we've got to push on a bit later on. As, I mean, yeah, Lando Norris reporting mechanical issues. We might end up like we did at Japan. Oh, is he out? Lando Norris is not out of the Grand Prix, is he? Yes, he is! Lando Norris out of the race, so we're going to inherit P9 again then. Like, yeah, we're really struggling to keep up with Ricciardo here, so not too sure what to make of that. But Lando Norris, World Championship leader, is out of the Grand Prix, and so is Alonso. So is Fernando Alonso as well there. So the one man that could have threatened us at the moment, he is out of the race as well. Ferrari is suddenly back in the fight at the front. But this race is just getting very, very chaotic all of a sudden, as we are still not taking time out of Ricciardo. We're pushing on, we're using all of the rich revs we've got available to us, and we're trying to take a bit more out of the tyres. But Ricciardo, whatever he's doing in that V-carb seems to be enough at the moment. And I don't want to speak too soon in this Grand Prix, but it might be once again that V-carb pull out points over us in terms of the championship. I mean, tyres just aren't getting worn, are they, at the moment? So I don't think we're going to see anybody dive into the pit lane again before the end of the afternoon. But, yeah, I think we're in for a very, very long second half of this race. Unless we see some changeable conditions still. I mean, I'm monitoring that dampness on the circuit. It's really climbing back down, actually. And as pretty much as soon as it gets back down to pretty much 1 mil, it's just going to move back the other way again. So a little bit peculiar there. We got yellow flags again temporarily, as I think Hulkenberg's starting to struggle as well. But this is not good either in this Grand Prix. Tsunoda is about to lap Lawson, and Verstappen is about to lap us in this race. So yeah, we could try and do something with blue flags at some point this afternoon as well. Maybe try and keep up with the Dutchman there and get the jump on Daniel Ricciardo. But ultimately, yeah, the wet races inside this game either are crazy or they can be a little bit boring. And I think that's seemingly what we're having this afternoon there is, well, unless Ricciardo makes an error. Yeah, that gap now 14 seconds to the Australian. So he is absolutely flying at this stage of the day. And we're just trying to use up the fuel where we can there. Maybe we work the tyres a bit harder. We can have a bit of an advantage later on in the day. But I mean, yeah, look at that. Look how many cars we're being lapped by now in the second half of the afternoon. Just all of those front runners there able to utilise the pace on those softer compounded tyres. But ultimately, you know, I don't think we can be too gutted about potentially our best race result of the year. There is 15 laps to go. Verstappen's still leading the way ahead of Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc. So this could be another good weekend for Ferrari and Red Bull against the leaders of course, McLaren. Liam Lawson there, we may as well try and get him to push on with the fuel as well. He's basically got enough to see him through to the end of the afternoon as well here. But yeah, a really weird race here from Montreal. And ultimately one that I don't think is going to be too dramatic once we survive the first stint there. Not sure. I mean, looking at that pace against Ricciardo, we really would have been able to do much against him here as the afternoon unfolded. And especially if you don't get a safety car or anything like that, yeah, all we really can do is just kind of focus on our own race and do our own thing here. As I mean, yeah, Tsunoda, he's almost about to get lapped by Lance Stroll. So 3 cars ahead of him. He's going to basically be a lap up right now. So yeah, it really has been a rather odd end to the Canadian Grand Prix. Logan Sargent, though, making a little bit of a mistake as well there. But making our way then in towards the final couple of laps. 3 laps to go now, and still Oscar Piastri is able to defend from Charles Leclerc. And as Max Verstappen then about to start the last lap of this Grand Prix, hopefully we are going to see, well, I mean, nothing really interesting going to happen now. But I tell you what, for Yuki Tsunoda, this has not been a bad weekend again now. A little bit gutted that we didn't have the pace to match Ricciardo. But ultimately, yeah, I think this has been a very, very good track for their car at the end of the day there. And Alex Albon as well. First points for Williams of the year will be massive for them to get him back in the fight with Haas as well there. And obviously put them clear of Kick Sauber and Alpine here. But Max Verstappen then on his final tour of the Canadian Grand Prix circuit. He lost the World Championship lead last time out for the first time this season. But here in Canada, obviously, yeah, Lando Norris having some issues and retiring from the Grand Prix. But Verstappen, to be fair to him, has absolutely been in control of the race. Anybody down into towards the final turns of the Canadian Grand Prix. It is going to be, I think, win number 4 of the year for the Dutchman there. And what a way to do it in style. Pretty similar to what he was able to achieve IRL here in Canada as well. Max Verstappen over the line. He is going to be your Canadian Grand Prix winner there. And I'm sure the Dutchman very, very happy. Hopefully we're going to replay that and we can listen into him. But yeah, it's going to be P9 for Yuki Tsunoda. Happy with that.
And there it is. The Dutchman, Max Verstappen, has taken first.
Well, there we go then. Yeah, watching Verstappen over the line. No celebrations. There we go, actually. Of course. Yeah, really, really good job done by the Dutchman there at the end of the afternoon. But we'll ride them with Yuki Tsunoda here, who obviously scored our first points of the campaign back at Imola with a fantastic drive from the rear of the field to get himself inside the top 10. This weekend, though, yes, we saw Lando Norris retire, but I don't think Alonso had the pace to beat us. And I think ultimately, yeah, you know, this one has been more about just the team working effectively to make sure we walk away with the result we deserve. Down in towards the final couple of corner. Annoyingly, yeah, we're going to lose out another couple of points to VCARB, but I think, yeah, with a few more upgrades, we are absolutely going to be able to challenge them over the next few rounds. Another race to forget for Liam Lawson, a little bit further away, but out of the final corner, Yuki Tsunoda, he is going to get 2 points on the board for the team. You know, we can't not celebrate those.
And what a moment for Yuki Tsunoda, who gets to celebrate a fantastic drive.
I tell you what, they had to work hard for those points today. What a phenomenal achievement that is.
That makes it all worth it, doesn't it? Seeing your team ready to share the celebrations. And no doubt, Verstappen fans will be celebrating the Dutchman's achievement.
Win number 5 is in the bag. They pulled out all the stops, pushing hard to earn that victory.
Plenty of smiles for the cameras as the drivers can let off some steam here in Montreal. Well, Karun, how do you think they'll be feeling in the team garage at the end of that?
Well, talk about a tale of two drivers. Lots of positives, but also an awful lot of room for improvement. The team are going to want both drivers firing on all cylinders.
And that's it for this weekend's F1 action here in Montreal.
Formula One will be back to Europe for the next round, on the shores of the Mediterranean, with some heated competition to look forward to in Spain.
Well, wise words there by Karun Chandok as well. Yeah, as happy as we are for Yuki, again, gutted for Liam Lawson that he just doesn't seem to be able to get the results out of the car right now. Verstappen takes the win though, but Ferrari the big movers. 11 places gained for Charles, 10 places gained for Carlos Sainz as well. They're 30 points on the board. Pretty good recovery there. Red Bull only able to walk away with 36 as well. And yeah, making huge gains on McLaren with just one car seeing it through to the checkered flag there. Like we said, you know, a little bit gutted that we didn't quite have the pace to match Ricciardo, but ultimately, you know, half second clear, fastest lap. I think, yeah, the Australian was just a bit too fast for us there. With Alex Albon as well, getting Williams' first points of the year. Hamilton, just a terrible weekend. For a circuit he loves so much, he just was not able to carve his way through the slower cars. And ultimately, yeah, it was a pretty terrible time for him. Lawson 2 laps down come the checkered flag, but he still beat out Zhou Guanyu there with Alonso and Norris both failing to see the checkered flag there. Verstappen opens up a 19-point lead at the top of the table. Leclerc's consistency there leaves him still in P3 ahead of Sainz, Piastri and Sergio Perez there, with Stroll still ahead of Alonso as well. I just find that hilarious. Tsunoda, 3 points on the board now, 10 behind VCARB though, is a little bit difficult. But, you know, we've got a lot of races still to try and close in that gap there. As Red Bull now with a 15-point lead over McLaren, who are a further 15 ahead of Ferrari as well there. So lots to be played for still. And there you can see we're still ahead of Haas and Williams. It's just Kick Sauber and Alpine yet to get points on the board. Fastest pit stop wise, 6th there for Liam Lawson. Actually a pretty good result. Come the end of the weekend, so we'll get a few more points there as well, which will leave us still in 8th place. 47 points for us. We make some gains on Aston Martin and Alpine there. But thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon when Formula One returns ready for the Spanish Grand Prix.